Well, I'm delighted to introduce Jonathan Thompson, who we're going to be speaking to tonight, known also as Jig.
Yeah.
So it's great for us to be together to hear a bit of your story, Jig, and thanks for sharing with us tonight. Now, over the next few minutes, we're going to hear kind of an overview of your life, really going all the way back to the early years. But before we go there, can you just give us a snapshot of who you are now, what your job is, family, those kind of things?
Yeah, so for those who don't know me, I am Jonathan Thomson, otherwise known as Jigger. I am a professional golfer. As we'll go on in the interview, it's kind of changed a little bit for the last sort of 12 months or so. But yeah, I'm proud father to Susie and proud husband to Olivia. I'm originally actually from Rotherham, but I moved to Sheffield probably, I think it's about 7 years ago now. And me and Olivia got married in Bradfield, actually. No, sorry, not Bradfield. Go on. Grindleford. You got it, Chris.
Okay, I can tell you.
How bad's that? I can't even remember.
Brilliant. Now, and this is your little girl we've got on the screen here. How old is she?
She's 2.5, yeah. Two and a half.
Brilliant, lovely. Now, the next question I want to ask you, in some ways, the most important question, and the question that I expect a lot of people here are already asking themselves and wondering, which is, how tall are you?
Well, yeah, officially 6'9", 2 meters 6.
Do you have to put two beds end to end or something?
No, I actually I try and sleep corner to corner. Actually, okay. Yeah, that usually works.
Okay, great for the wife, I'm sure. Okay, sorry, I had to ask that, but let's go back to serious questions now. Jonathan, take us right back to the beginning, to your childhood. What was life like for you growing up?
Actually, my childhood was kind of different, really, in a way. It was quite a strange upbringing, I guess. I got diagnosed with leukemia as a child at the age of 7, and this really changed kind of the dynamic of what a normal sort of upbringing would be for me. Missing out, actually, on a lot. I think a lot of vital skills, but at the same time, kind of, also learned a lot of other things rather quickly, I guess.
Now, tell us, you were 7 when you were... Tell us, in what way were you unwell?
Well, I was actually quite still an active kid at that age. I was playing a lot of sport, but one of the symptoms was that basically I was losing lots of weight very rapidly, and I was also bruising really badly. And at first, they diagnosed it locally as anemia. But my mum and auntie at the time, auntie actually wasn't happy with things, and we got referred to the Sheffield Children's, yeah.
Now, being so unwell at such a young age, how do you think that changed your outlook on life?
Well, it changes your perspective on things, but also how sort of we take life for granted and stuff at times. But it changed my perspective as a child, just because I think it was real difficult times at that age, being so unwell for a very lengthy period of time, going through the treatment that sort of I had to go through. So that changed the whole sort of dynamic of growing up as a kid and what I was doing, and things that I was able to do, actually.
Now, how many years were you actually unwell and being treated for?
So as a child, I was actually I was unwell for it was 4 years. So it was the chemotherapy and the treatment plan was over 4 years, which is a long time, and I think that kind of it shows how far science has come actually in recent times.
Yeah. Now, at some point in those years, golf entered the picture. Here's a picture of you mid-swing. Good form, by the way. I'll give you some feedback later, but pretty good. Now, tell us, how did you get into the game?
Yeah, so I got into the game through my dad was always a very, very active, sporty person, played cricket to a high level, golf to a high level when I was growing up. So I grew up with a set of plastic clubs in the house and this, that, and the other. But when I was ill, my dad was steward chef at Rotherham Golf Club, which I ended up spending a lot of time there because I couldn't go to school. The risk of infections, being around other kids. There was a lot of things going on, and actually wasn't allowed to play any contact sport whatsoever at that age. So golf was a sport that I could play, and it just became a very much a thing that I loved doing, and it gave me an escape from what I was going through.
It's interesting hearing that because, I've heard quite a few stories of people who have really excelled in sport, and part of the reason that they have is that they had unusual circumstances as children that meant that they spent a lot more time doing sport than others might have. And I suppose that's part of your story, isn't it?
That is definitely part of my story. Like I say, and actually at the time at that golf club, there was a lot of really good, either top level amateurs or professionals. So I spent a lot of time sort of watching them and actually admiring them, doing that. And it was something that I really kind of wanted to do myself.
Now, tell us, how did that passion develop? Because there must have been a point when, you realised, actually, I'm quite good at this.
Yeah.
It might be more than just a little bit of fun. So how did that passion develop?
Well, I was always, like I say, I was always sporty as a kid. And I always kind of, had pretty decent hand-eye coordination and all the rest of it. But I would say that it sort of really started to develop around 14, 15. So probably just after remission and stuff like this, I started to put a lot of real time and effort into golf, actually, rather than other things. And that's when it really sort of started to take off. I won a big national event, the North of England under-16s at the time, which the likes of Matt Fitzpatrick's won and stuff like that. So there's some pretty big names won that, and that's when I kind of knew that things were going to go in the right direction. I was already playing for Yorkshire and then so on, and I really got headhunted to play for England after that.
Yeah, so there's that time playing for England, still as a young adult, really, or not even an adult, really. But your golf career then, it actually took off pretty quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And actually, I quite often reminisce about this and look back and think, really, in a way, I feel like it probably did take off too quick. Because I sort of went through the ranks as being a top amateur, playing for England, right through to sort of being 18, playing for the men's side at that point. And basically, I then decided to turn professional at the end of being 18, 19, which is very young to do that. So that I turned pro, and again, actually, when I turned pro, I didn't have any status anywhere, so I wasn't really affiliated to a tour or anything like that. But I had an agent at the time that sort of reached out to a tour to get me some sponsors' invitations, and it was sort of actually a strange time to turn pro because it was towards the end of the seasons on all the tours actually. But I managed to get 4 invites, the last 4 events, on a tour called the PGA Europro Tour, which is sadly no longer actually going. But and I won an event in that one of those 4 events.
Which one was that you won?
So it was the Glenfarclas Open. It was up in Scotland.
So were you kind of a wild card?
Basically.
And you won it?
Yeah.
Your Goran Ivanisevic.
It was very, very sort of like, wow, this kid's hit the scene quite quick. Definitely not expected. It wasn't expected from anyone, really. It was a sort of a taster into professional golf.
So then you started getting noticed, did you?
And then, well, yeah, I got noticed. I then managed to get other invitations elsewhere onto different, bigger, better tours. But I actually decided, you know what, I'm going to play the Europro for a full season. I think that's the right thing to do because it's kind of like a progression thing. The only way I can describe it in terms of like football is like the DP World Tour would be Premier League, the Challenge Tour would be sort of Championship, Europro Tour would be League One.
So you stuck in League One.
So I'm not stuck. I've got a great opportunity at this point, and I actually felt like at the time that was going to be the best possible way and kind of easiest route for me to progress to the next stage. So to the Challenge Tour. I played a full season, and I actually did miss out on the Order of Merit of a Challenge Tour card for £5, believe it or not, which was
Like £5 prize money.
prize money
Yeah.
on the Order of Merit, which actually was kind of devastating at the time. I thought, wow, this is
Cost of a curry.
yeah,
That's all it was.
This is tough. Like, this is what this is what it's all about. It's serious fine margins now. So then I went on to then enter a thing called Q School. Q School is an event that you would enter to try and get to the DP World Tour. There's 3 stages, so there's 3 competitions, effectively. There's 4 rounds, and then the final stage is 6 rounds. And you have to qualify in each stage in a certain number. There's 1, 5, 6 players of each stage. I managed to get through all 3 at the end of this season to then get my DP World Tour card. And that was amazing, but I actually think it happened too soon.
So basically, you jumped the championship straight into the Premier League.
Basically, that's exactly what happened. And when I look back at this, I missed. I was still very young at this point. I still like to think I'm young, but I was very young at this point, and what it sort of, I wasn't prepared. I was still very immature. I wasn't prepared for these challenges that I was about to face. Now, 20, 21 years of age, like I say, I then have to get straight on a flight to travel the other side of the world. We went Australia, South Africa, Mauritius, at that age, on my own, no parents with me. You're thrown in at the deep end. And I kind of really didn't deal with that very well, to be honest.
And am I right that kind of before that, your dad was often the one? I mean, he was like Andy Murray's mum, always kind of there at the courtside.
Yeah,
He was travelling everywhere with you.
That's totally right. Or if it wasn't my dad there, we're part of these sort of big amateur organisations like playing for England. You had a team of coaches. You had, sort of chaperones with you type thing. And if I was playing in an individual event, then my dad would be there. So I always had somebody looking after me, basically, And then to sort of face these challenges was tough.
Yeah, sure. Now, we've got a video here we're going to just watch. Now, it's a bit of a special shot. Tell us where this was and when it was.
So this was in the Open at Sandwich, Kent, Deal. This was a poignant moment, to be honest, not only in my career, but in this event, because this shot, I just bogeyed the previous hole, well, actually the previous 2 holes to be outside the cut mark by a shot. This was on Friday. And to be totally honest, we were right in between clubs at this point. The yardage wasn't really suiting me. The wind was strong, and my caddy said, "No, you got to go for this one. Like, you got to hit it hard. Let's get the middle of the green, because the pin was tucked in on the right-hand side in a dangerous position. Hit it hard. Let's get it in the middle of the green, 2-putt. See what happens from there."
Well, let's see what happens, shall we?
Yeah.
Jonathan Thomson, his tee shot at the 16th, right on the cut line right now, 1 over par.
Could do with a good one here, couldn't he?
Tough hole to get close to. Landed it perfectly on the downslope. Wow! That'll do it for you right there. A huge grandstand circles the right, back and left, and they erupt in cheer now from cut line to 1 under par.
That must feel good to watch back again and again, right?
Yeah, he certainly does. And I can't tell you how many times I watched that back when I was laid in the hospital bed of recent, I tell you.
Yeah, I bet. That's brilliant. Now, you've had real success, tournaments, sponsorships, travel. What do you most enjoy about that whole world?
I think at the time, it's actually very difficult to enjoy as such. I found it very strenuous. I actually found it very stressful. I think travel does that to you. But at the same time, I look back and I reflect, and I think, I've really, really enjoyed sort of the different countries, seeing the different cultures. different food. I'm a bit of a foodie, so that's, you know, always nice. But I really enjoyed that side of it, and the socialising side, which is difficult on tour, actually, I'll be honest with you, because it's a very, very selfish world, actually, the golfing world. You're obviously an individual athlete, really. And I guess your friends, you are effectively trying to beat each week, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, do you... You really love the sport itself, right? Now, there must be challenges when you go pro. You're no longer doing it kind of just for fun. It's your career and it's your livelihood. So that must change it. But do you still, when you step up to the tee, do you still kind of love that, get the same thrill from the game that you always used to?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I love golf, but I also love competing. And I think that's the thing that I really, really sort of enjoy and get out of the game, to be honest with you. The competing side of things is something that you, for instance, that is like a feeling that you can't relive, but you always try to relive.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think always brings you back. Phil, for instance, who I've been giving some lessons to, the thing that would bring him back to golf is that one shot that he flushes down the middle, not the 120 other rubbish ones. You know, so
a few more lessons, you'll change that ratio, don't worry.
That's the thing, you know, and that's the thing that always keeps dragging you back, is definitely the competition and the sort of adrenaline that it gives you.
Brilliant. Now, one thing that we've missed and we should go back to is how you met your wife. So we've got a photo of her here. This is Olivia. Tell us how you met.
Yeah. So actually, at the time, my dad was the steward at Hillsborough Golf Club. And Liv's dad had been a member there 25 years plus, said to my dad, look, is there any sort of room for a job for Olivia? Of course, like, you know, you're always seeking out waitresses. You need, you know, there was also a lot of functions on and stuff like this. So Olivia gets a job. At this point, I'm actually traveling. I'm still an amateur.
How old are you at this point?
I'm 18, 19. But I'm traveling. I was away. I was away with England. And I come home and my mum said to me, there's a tall brunette girl who's working for your dad, who I think is absolutely perfect for you, Jig. And I went, no. I've already met her. Her name's Liv. No. I've met her. It's not for me, Mum. No, you've met the one who works behind the bar. I said, yeah, that's right. She doesn't work behind the bar. She works for your dad. So I thought, right, I think I'd better go and check this out. Dad,
so there were
I'm going to start pot watching.
There were two Olivias.
Two Olivias,
both
tall brunettes,
both working for your dad.
No. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Easy mistake to make.
Easy mistake to make. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to seek this out. Dad, I'm going to start doing some pot washing for you. As things go, yeah, Olivia did strike my eye. So I thought, you know. And then, embarrassingly, as dads do, he sort of said, oh, Olivia, he can't find you on Facebook. What's your name? Olivia's like, Olivia Walsh. What? Surely he can spell Walsh. Like, anyway, she goes back that evening. Her Facebook's on a super strict sort of profile thing that you can't find her. She then goes on, changes that, and actually messages me in the end.
What did she say?
Are you ever going to speak to me?
Okay. So basically, everyone apart from you was responsible for you guys getting together by the sounds of it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
absolutely right. So then we actually went on to have a few dates. One of our first date was a walk around Bradfield. I'll never forget that. And we've been childhood sweethearts ever since.
Amazing. And you got married a few years ago?
Yeah, we got married December 22 in Grindleford at the Maynard, yeah. I think it's kind of every sort of professional golfer's time to get married is in December, because that's the only sort of time you have off.
You're not working.
So yeah, it was amazing. Obviously, we were just sort of out of COVID, so things were again slightly different. But
great, brilliant story. I love there were two Olivias.
Yeah, I know. Tall
brunettes.
brunettes.
Great. Now, we're going to go back to last October. You were at a tournament in the Czech Republic. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
And some of your friends on the tour started kind of raising concerns with you about your health. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so again, it was kind of like it was tough for me because I was sort of thinking that, you know what, things are actually starting to go in the right direction with my golf. I changed a few things up. I changed coach that season, and things really were sort of progressing with my golf. But my health kind of was deteriorating at the same time. So I turned up to the Czech Republic, and I've said this to you in the past. I actually turned up really late to this event. I turned up on like a Wednesday morning. All tournaments predominantly start on a Thursday. That's not something I would always turn up on a Monday or Tuesday to prepare, but it was something that I thought, you know what, I'm going to try something different again, and I'm going to go on a Wednesday morning. I arrived, and few of my good friends on tour said, like, "Are you all right, Jig?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so. I was ill a few weeks ago in Germany. I had to withdraw. I thought I'd got COVID for the first time. You know, it's taken me a while to shake this off," basically, is what I thought was going on. Thursday happens. Jig, are you sure you're all right? Like, you look really ill. You look grey. And I've actually still got a picture on my phone of this moment. I then took a selfie on my phone thinking, do I actually really look grey? Then the medical team sort of got involved and said, I think really what we should do is we should get some bloods done. I think you've probably become deficient in something, or maybe your testosterone levels have dropped like off a cliff. They see that apparently quite often in athletes. Around my sort of age, that can happen. So I thought, yeah, let's do that. Go to the GP. They didn't really want to do any blood tests. They said, no, you've got a virus, you can't shake it off, whatever. So I ended up having some private blood tests done. Let's say the test was on a Wednesday. On the Friday evening, I got a call from a doctor saying, you need to go to A&E now. And I said, it's 9 o'clock at night. Like, surely I can go in the morning. No, you need to go now. I'm going to send you an email that you must show to the receptionist. And then that's when it all unfolded that evening, early hours of the next morning, that basically I'd got leukemia again. Get yourself over to the Hallamshire.
So did you go straight from one hospital into the Hallamshire?
Pretty much. I said to them at the Northern General, like, look, I've got to go home. I need to tell my family, like, I can't just go straight to the Hallamshire. Like, that was like a case of, yeah, no problem. You must go home, tell your family what's going on. But then you do need to go. Pack an overnight bag because you're going to be there for at least overnight. And yeah, our world was soon turned upside down again.
Yeah. Now, so clearly they had picked this up when they did the blood test when you went into hospital. But tell us how things unfolded from there as the team that were looking after you kind of explained to you the situation you were in.
Yeah. At first, they did a bone marrow biopsy. And then they sort of sent me home and said, look, we've got to wait for this result, but we're going to like rush the result through. So they sent me home, and then I come back in to see the consultant. And really, they didn't come to a conclusion. They knew that there was some leukemia there, but they didn't really know what type of leukemia, basically. And they actually really wasn't believing the first bone marrow biopsy results. In a nutshell, they didn't believe what they were seeing down the microscope. So they said, look, do you mind if we do another one? And I'm like, great. That's, it's possibly one of the most painful things, you have to go through. Yeah, let's do another one. Go ahead. Anyway, again, a couple of days later, you have basically got leukemia, but we haven't seen this type of leukemia for 25 years plus. You've actually got 3 types of leukemia cells, and this diagnosis is not good, basically.
Yeah. Now, tell us, when you received a diagnosis as serious as that, and I understand, you've told me that the people looking after you were very clear and frank with you about how serious a situation you were in. What's the next thing to go through your mind in a situation like that?
For me, my ultimate biggest fear, and still is my biggest fear, was for Susie to not grow up and know a dad. That is the first thing that came to my mind, was basically I'm going to die because this is not good. And that was my fear. And I think, I know that still is my fear. But the consultant was very, very clear that ultimately in this situation, there's not a bad chance, there's not a good chance. You are very much in the middle, and there's no research here. So what we're going to do to you, we are basically going to throw absolutely everything at you that we possibly can to try and obliterate this cancer. And very fortunate for me at the time, the physical position that I was in, the fitness levels that I had very much went in my favour, because if I wasn't at that level of fitness, they wouldn't have been able to give me what they give me.
Yeah.
And that he made that very clear, actually, from the start. So that was really the main challenge that me and Liv, obviously, we talked about, me dying and things, because that was pretty much quite frank, actually, at that moment in time.
Yeah. And you really had that kind of one shot for treatment, didn't you? Because having had leukemia as a child, there's only so much chemo that one person can be exposed to in their lifetime. That's right, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. And Liv asked the consultant at the time and said, look, what options is there, really, if this doesn't work? And he said, well, there is no options.
Yeah.
It was point blank, like, if this doesn't work, there is pretty much nothing else we can do.
Yeah, that must have been a very, very scary time for you all. We've got a couple of photos here. This is you with your mum, isn't it?
Yeah, that's this is actually the first day that I started chemo. And Mum said, come on, let's have a photo. I want a photo with you. And I actually immediately said to her, why? Do you think I'm going to die? She said, no, don't be silly. I just want a picture with you, because this is a poignant day. This is the day you're starting, and this is the day you're facing what you've got to go through.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a photo, again, that I'll remember forever.
Yeah. It must have been especially hard for her in that she was watching you go through this for the second time. And I think you said that, when you were a child, they kind of insulated you a bit from the seriousness of that situation at that time. But of course, your mum would have been very aware.
Yeah, I've had a couple of really sort of, good conversations with my mum and dad, I think, through this past time. And as a child, when I was going through it, I only really remember the actual moments of being really sick. But I don't have any sort of I don't know what the consultants were saying to my mum and dad at the time. Like, your parents do shelter you as a child from the sort of, I think, the harshness and the realities of actually what's going on. Whereas this time around, well, I'm an adult, I know what's going on, and I'm the one having the conversations with the consultant. So that's very, it's been a very different situation, but also, I think understanding what my parents went through when I was a child, it's been tough.
Yeah. Now we've got one more photo I'm going to show you, which is it's quite a shocking photo of, but it shows something of how unwell you were. Now, when was this?
This was probably, I think, around, I don't know the exact date, but this was probably around 5 days after I'd had my stem cell transplant. And this is actually, I sort of do describe that as I think I do look dead. But they did say to me, and I didn't believe them, if I'm honest, that you're going to have this thing. Because when I was having the stem cells, I looked and felt pretty normal. But they did say to me, you are going to go downhill rapidly and to a place you probably don't know you've been before you come back up the other side, basically. And that was that time.
This was kind of earlier this year even, wasn't it? Was this kind
That's
of
February.
Yeah, February. So it's incredible how far you've come in that time.
Absolutely.
Now, at this point, I'd never met you. You'd never been to church here. How, a time in your life when you had so much to be thinking about and going through your head, why did your attention at that point turn to considering faith and God and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. There was just a natural pull-in, and I still, to this day, like I've said to you before, I cannot put my finger on actually when there was a specific moment that we decided to become Christians. Really, there is one moment that things were pulling us in the direction, and then me and Liv, I was in hospital. And me and Liv were on FaceTime and we were talking about it. And she said, do you know what? We're going to buy 2 Bibles. Let's start there and see in which direction this takes us. That, I think, is the moment that we really officially became Christians, to be honest. And yeah, I can't really imagine this journey without it, to be honest with you.
So where do you get the Bibles?
Amazon, of course. They were sort of, the small, not necessarily pocket size, but ever so slightly bigger than that. And yeah, it wasn't a case of just buying the Bibles and thinking, right, we're going to start from Genesis 1.
Okay.
And we're going to read the Bible. It was a case of we would, Olivia different to me, but we'd open the Bible and read from there. Wherever we opened the Bible, we would read from there. And that's how it happened, really.
Okay, so were there, you just literally flipped it open anywhere and just started reading?
Anywhere.
Okay, but the Psalms, which are in the middle of the Bible, which is probably why you landed there, became quite important to you, didn't they?
They became very important.
For people who don't know what Psalms are, just tell us what.
I see the Psalms as like, they're small poems that sort of, I guess, explain what suffering is and how, to explain through these little poems, talking to God. And for me specifically, and I still pray this psalm every night, actually, that it was Psalms 91 that was really hit me. It hit me, it felt like I needed that psalm. And I then ended up, because I found them easy to read and sort of resonate with, and sort of, I found that part of the Bible really sort of easy to communicate with. That's where I ended up specifically reading a lot of Psalms.
Now, obviously, at this point, you're in hospital. Your immune system is like rock bottom, so you couldn't be coming to church or anything like that. Was there anything else going on for you or Liv? Any other kind of Christians who came across your path, or was Liv going to church? Those kind of things.
Well, Liv then decided. So through this, Liv then decided, you know what? Actually, I'm going to start going to church. I'm going to go to Outerbridge Church. I know a few people at Outerbridge Church. A couple of them, Adrian, Caroline, Joe and Matt Brook, because of school and sort of...
So Caroline had been a school teacher,
That's right,
Who's in the kitchen right now.
She is, yeah. Listening away, hiding away. And I thought that was a really brave thing to do, actually, at the time, to be honest. But also, kind of... Again, a really poignant time in our journey, and Liv then sort of, again, really loved the church community and found some ladies in a ladies group that she felt like she could speak openly to and not be judged in a way. I think sometimes when you're talking about suffering and what somebody's going through, I do think genuinely sometimes don't believe it's that bad. That's how I feel, and I think me and Liv have talked about that in depth. So that was amazing for Liv, and it was a real sort of support mechanism for her going through what we were going through, because she couldn't come into hospital because my immune system was so low. I couldn't see Susie. So she needed support.
Yeah.
And she really did find that within the church community.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, you couldn't come in person, but you did start watching from your iPad, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So with Liv coming to church, finding out about there's a live stream. Well, the live stream for me was huge. It was so important and so brilliant for me to watch whilst I'm in hospital. And even when I was out of hospital, I still couldn't come to church for a long time. So I would watch it at home on the TV, and it really was so important.
Yeah. Now, when you got that Bible, you kind of had it on your bedside table in hospital, and there was a funny moment with your consultant, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. So my consultant, I think a lot of you will be familiar with him, actually, and he won't mind me mentioning his name, is Dr. Nick Morley. He's a member at Fullwood Church, as I came to find out, actually. And he came to see me one morning. I was in hospital. I think I got an infection or something. And he saw my Bible on sort of my bedside table, and he said, "Oh, I never knew you were a Christian." I said, "Well, we're new to Christianity." I explained, And he said, "Where do you go?" And I said, "Oh, Outerbridge Parish Church." But obviously, I don't go at the moment. My wife goes. And he said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "Chris Tufnell. I know Chris. He was at Fullwood." And we got talking. He left the room and said, "Actually, God knows what you need today." And it sort of hit me.
Yeah.
But it gave me a lot of, it gave me a real calming influence that I knew ultimately that my consultant was actually going home and praying. Now, I've said this to you, I don't know if he was praying specifically about me, and I'll never know that. But I know that he was going home and praying about things, certainly praying about what he does. And that for me was massive.
Yeah. Now, tell us, what difference does being a Christian make to you?
Well, I think ultimately knowing that you have something bigger than you, something bigger than humanity, something that somebody who you can talk to, and you can sort of know how you're feeling about things. Knowing that you are forgiven for your sins. We are all sinners on earth. We try not to be, but we are. And knowing that there is actually eternal life in the small window of heaven. And that's the difference it makes to me and Liv and my family, and knowing that death was on the cards, still is on the cards at a very young age. But knowing that there is life after death is something that is, that makes a difference.
Yeah, certainly. Now, this is a slightly pointed question, but it would be possible to imagine that someone might think, yeah, but Jig, the only reason that you're continuing to trust in God is because your health is going in the right direction at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's a totally fair question to ask, but my response to that would be I started believing in God when I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
In the toughest point really in my life. And also, life is not all sunshine and rainbows. Just because I sit here now looking healthy and quite fit again. Well, 2 weeks ago, I was in hospital again for a week.
Yeah.
With an infection, on IV antibiotics, feeling absolutely horrific.
Yeah.
So actually, it's not just because my health's going in the right direction. Yes, on a whole, my health is going in the right direction, but there is still hurdles and obstacles, and it's very much like this.
Yeah.
It's up and down, and it's going to be like that for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's not just because things are going great. It's
Yeah.
because I've become a Christian and started believing in God.
Yeah, good answer. Okay, so just a couple more questions. The first is this. There's been quite a bit of research published this year, even actually, suggesting that people of your generation are actually very open to considering faith in God and Christianity. I'm just interested, does that kind of ring true with your experience?
I think it does. I think it totally does. Me becoming a Christian on tour, which people know about, has been accepted extremely well, and actually a lot better than I thought it would be, if I'm being honest with you. And certainly, my sort of peers, and one of them who I class as my best friend on tour, he's obviously openly gone and spoken to his family about things, because the other Sunday he was in the lead for a tournament, and I got a message from his dad saying, "I hope you're saying some prayers for Alfie today." So there's movement, and there's open conversations in our sort of age group and community. And I've actually noticed and heard of a lot more Christians actually in sport, in golf as such, not in sport in general, but in golf.
Yeah.
There's definitely a movement. And I think it's really good that there's movement, and it's good that people feel comfortable talking about it.
Yeah. Brilliant. That's really interesting to hear, and it certainly kind of bears up with my kind of experience with people that I'm talking to as well. Now, a last question here, which is, what would you say to someone who's kind of curious about the Christian faith, but maybe is a little unsure or a little bit nervous about actually taking any steps to look into it?
Yeah. I think that's a great question, because what I would say is, I think, number one, just do a little bit of research of your local church, maybe, what they do. There's probably some information online. So do that. Potentially buy a Bible. Start reading the Bible. That's how we started. And I think sometimes I felt like this, and I've spoken openly to you about this. Walking through the church doors of your local church, heads can turn. Who are these,
Is that just because you're 6'9"?
Well, potentially. Who's this guy turning up? Yeah, potentially. But I think, people are sort of very intrigued, because there is a community, and they're intrigued to know who this newcomer may be. So it is quite a brave thing, and something that you potentially would be nervous about. But don't be nervous. The people that you meet are fantastic. It opens conversations, and ultimately those people in that church are normal people. You can have a conversation about work, or what did you have for dinner last night.
So you're saying it was kind of scary the first time walking through the doors, but it didn't stay scary forever.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying. So go and do it, and see how you feel, and talk to people. Reach out to your vicar.
That's
here.
me, if you didn't know.
It's here.
Yeah, brilliant. Jig, Jonathan Thomson, we are so grateful to you for sharing your story with us tonight. Can we give him a round of applause?
Thank you.
Now, just stay there for a moment. A few things just to say to everyone in the room, just kind of following on the kind of coattails of what Jig has just said with us. One is, I just want to share with you a few ways to invite you on kind of from tonight. The first is to say any Sunday is a good Sunday to join us. And it might feel a bit scary walking through the doors first time, but it gets easier from there. And we have a live stream as well. So if you want to kind of drop your head around the door digitally first to get a look in, then you're welcome to do that as well. But we have new people with us every week, and you'd be really welcome to join us. The other thing is just to highlight to you, you've got some flyers on your tables that say Encounters on them. And it says Encounters is an informal opportunity to look at the life-changing meetings people had with Jesus. And if you've enjoyed tonight, well, on Thursday evenings from the 9th of October, we're going to have something kind of similar in here. Each night we'll gather around tables, have a delicious meal cooked by some of those who have been cooking for us tonight. And on each evening, we look at one encounter that someone had with Jesus in the Bible and how it affected and changed their lives. There's some just very normal conversation around the table about that with normal people. I'm encouraged to be... I hope I'm included in the normal people.
Absolutely.
But it's a great opportunity, just over 7 casual evenings, to look at what the fuss is all about, really, with this person of Jesus, who has changed Jig and Liv's lives, mine, many people in this room, countless people around the world and through the years, and continues to today. So do grab one of those flyers and you can sign up. You can join us. That's Thursday evenings. And I've mentioned Sunday mornings. And we've got some harvest suppers as well coming up. Our annual harvest suppers on the 3rd and 4th of October as well. So all the details for that are on our website. But finally, just to say thank you very much for joining us tonight. Don't feel that you need to rush off. You can hang around. I'm sure Jig will be around for a bit longer if you want to ask him any golfing questions, or if you want to join the training team with Phil over here. But thank you again to you, Jig, for joining us tonight. See you soon.
Thank you, yeah. I'll just say a couple of thanks as well. Thank you for the amazing team that have looked after us tonight with the amazing food that we've had. Thank you all for turning up, but most importantly, from me and my family, thank you to yourself and OPC for everything that you're doing in the community and welcoming us with open arms is something that we will be forever grateful for.
We love having you with us.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.